What about India? I mean, we've also had a good rally, but what you said about Asia holds true of India as well, that the last 3 years we haven't seen any meaningful earnings growth. Do you think it's round the corner, or can you predict that with some certainty? Or do you think it might continue to flatter to deceive?
I'm not sure one can predict things with great certainty these days. I'm not sure one ever could predict things with certainty. What does seem clear is that India's economic course is generally set fair, and with a fair wind and good government, which is never a given, I'm afraid, in India. We could be looking at, say, economic growth 6, maybe even as high as 8%, with a fair wind. So certainly the animal spirits within the economy, I think, are pretty much unleashed. There's still a lot of reform to come through. You've then got to see that whether that translates to earnings per share, which ultimately will drive the market. But I think there's a lot to go for in India, and we've been overweight India for 20 or more years in our portfolios, and we still are to this day. So we find in India certainly the broad picture of very long-term growth, and we are very long-term people. We've sat with many of our investments for 10, 20 years even, and we've had some bad years within that period, of course, but we're looking really beyond it at the far longer term, and it's with some assurance one can look at India and say this is the place to be.
But as long-term investors, you would be bullish on Indian consumption as a story.
Yes.
Did you tweak any of your consumption-related holdings because of what happened with demonetization? I did see that you probably took out a two-wheeler stock, or maybe pruned holdings in some consumer stocks. Do you think it has affected the near-term trajectory?
Yes, we tweak all the time, largely in reflection of our own flows. So rather than us saying we now like or dislike India or a particular stock, it's often a reflection of a client's given us money or a client's taken money away from us. Yeah. So on demonetization itself, that didn't cause us to suddenly say, oh my goodness, we must get out of Hero, for example, or anything like that. It certainly wasn't a reflection of demonetization, because we see that as a very short-term blip, and it certainly was in some cases a very major blip.
Like two-wheelers, it still continues to lag.
Yes. So you're looking at maybe a couple of quarters where it's affecting, but really we're not managing the portfolio for a couple of quarters. So that hasn't affected our broad stance at all, and we're still optimistic broadly over consumption. Of course, in two-wheelers there can be all sorts of other concerns, competition, etc., etc. But demonetization didn't cause us to lose faith with India. It was a bit of a shock to us all, of course, because it was, you could argue it was either very well handled because nobody knew about it, or it was clumsily handled, maybe a bit of both.
Yeah. But what about categories like paints and all, which seem to be going through some air pocket because of that? Do you think we've come out of that? I mean, you own some paint stocks in India too.
Yes, we've held paint stocks for, gosh, again, 20 years. Asian Paints and the like have been fantastic performers. Yes, it's certainly been affecting business, but again, short term. If anything, I would say we're more concerned about the valuations of some of these stocks, and that certainly applies to the market as a whole. We've probably been saying for quite a few years now, we like India. We think that the companies in India are as good as you'll find in certain cases anywhere in the world. We just wish it were cheaper, and that remains even more so the case today after India's run ahead.
I want to ask you about the Tata Group, because you were quite vocal when that controversy was erupting. Do you think we've put that behind us? Because some investors, large investors, are still concerned about possible eruptions going forward.
Well, it's a reminder in some senses that even the companies you put on a pedestal, which we were all guilty of, have frailties. and that's certainly been shown to be the case with Tata. So it's something we watch closely. Our only investment was in TCS, which has been the jewel in the crown of Tata. Of course, management changes might cause us to watch carefully, and we are obviously watching.
You're worried
carefully.
about the fact that Chandra, the erstwhile managing director, has moved to another role in the group?
In some senses, yes, although I think there's far more to TCS than Chandra. So he's done a fabulous job and is obviously well trusted by the family and put into the top job. So I don't think that in itself is not a massive concern. It certainly raised our eyebrows. But we didn't see any indication of anything strange going on at TCS itself, which is where we've got all our Tata investment is in that one stock.
It's a big holding for you, and there are lots of concerns about whether Indian IT is losing its way, slowing down. Are you concerned because you continue to hold that position in TCS?
Yes, I think we would share that concern, and certainly the glory days of Indian IT outsourcing growth are over.
Over?
Well, glory days are over.
Sure.
It doesn't mean to say the future's dead, but the dramatic growth we've seen over the last 25 years from nothing to the phenomenal success stories the TCSs and the Infosys have become. I think we're not going to see history repeat itself there, so growth is definitely slowing. The businesses are having to, as businesses do all the time, have to refine their business plans, change tack a little. So we expect and have seen the companies derate, but it's hard to find anything of that quality elsewhere within India. So we're not seeing the Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu phenomenon in India. It's been a different phenomenon.
Sure. Have you trimmed your holdings overall as a sector exposure?
Marginally, yes, we have. Yes, we have, because we've got our main exposure in TCS and Infosys. We've got a smattering of stocks such as Infosys as well behind that.
What about pharmaceuticals? That's another space which has derated considerably.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what's going on in the US with regard to Indian pharma?
I mean, in some senses, it's very different business to IT services, but similar phenomenon happening, and in both cases, industries that have done fantastically well.
You do own Sun Pharma still?
Yes, we own Sun Pharma, we own Lupin, we own some of the domestic.
But Sun's had a rough ride.
Yes, Sun's had a rough ride after an excellent ride.
Yeah.
We don't have massive holdings in the farmers. But we have decent exposure. Again, it's what India is very good at, and it's a sector India really excels at. The issue, of course, has been, again, the fact that prices were high, so valuations were high, and people were expecting a lot. And this is always our fear broadly in markets, not just India. When we go into a highly rated stock or hold a highly rated stock, if there's any glitch in those earnings and sentiment, you can lose an awful lot of money very, very quickly. And that certainly happened in some of the farmers.
What about telecoms, where it's been a long bear market, and suddenly there's been a lot of excitement with Idea versus Vodafone. Has it forced you to look at that sector again from a valuation point of view?
Well, we've had a long-term small holding in Bharti, which has been a very bumpy ride for us, and it's certainly a sector we look at closely. So again, through the Birla Group, there'll be some interest for us as well. So yes, we do look at it closely, but there have been such dramatic price wars. It's been a bit of a bloodbath for many. But again, it's something that should be part of a portfolio, and we had Bharti as part of our portfolio and still do.
The tricky one has been industrials in India, because we've just not seen the capex cycle firing for so long. I mean, I don't know whether you own L&T and those kind of names, but what is your approach to playing industrials in India?
Well, we've had big exposure broadly in India, more to the cement sector than industrials. So that's been our big sector play broadly in India, and then select manufacturing companies such as Bosch and the likes. That again, great company, but hugely expensive.
Yeah. But you do own different kind of cement companies. I think you own Ramco and some of the smaller companies too?
Yes, we own Ramco, and our traditional holding, and first cement holding that we still hold to this day was Grasim.
Okay.
So Grasim, Ultratech, ACC, Ambuja. It's a sector we like as maybe a safer play on overall development and the building out of India, although of course the cement price can fluctuate sharply, and it takes one extra bag of cement in production to cause the cement price to fall sharply, so it can be a volatile sector.
You, a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you very much
for your time.